And the mediation efforts continue in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. However, as the fighting continues, diverse peace plans have been put forward. Amid calls for a slowdown, the Israeli officials continue to be adamant on the expected ground offensive. And all this while the death toll keeps on mounting. More than 700 Palestinians were killed overnight by Israeli airstrikes. And this is as per Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry. This is the highest 24-hour death toll since the war broke out. The Israeli military says it had hit over 400 Hamas targets and killed dozens of its fighters overnight in the airstrikes that took place on the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, rocket warning sirens continue to ring in Israel. They sounded in several central Israeli towns in the last 24 hours. And visuals show Israel's Iron Dome intercepting the fired rockets. Moving on to a very pressing issue at the moment, that is the humanitarian aid access to Gaza. On Tuesday, 8 trucks containing water, food and medicine were able to enter the besieged enclave. However, the number was supposed to be 20. No explanation has been provided as to why the rest of the trucks did not enter Gaza through the Rafah border there. Well, a total of 54 aid trucks have entered Gaza over the last several days, which is not enough for 2 million Gazans. Well, Gaza needs a much higher amount of aid at the moment. And a discussion regarding this happened in the United Nations Security Council on Tuesday, where all nations agreed that more humanitarian aid should be delivered into Gaza urgently. But nations proposed rival plans for the same. Well, the US has called for pauses in the conflict so that the aid could be supplied. Now, a pause is basically considered less formal and shorter than a ceasefire. However, Russia wants a complete, immediate ceasefire. This plan is also backed by all Arab nations. As UN debates this issue, Gaza is running out of crucial materials. Hospitals in Gaza are operating without fuel, and doctors have warned that critical equipment like incubators for newborns risks stopping. As per the World Health Organization, 6 hospitals in Gaza are forced to shut down due to lack of fuel. As per UN, Gaza needs at least 160,000 liters of fuel per day to power its basic requirements. Meanwhile, the Western nations continue their shuttle diplomacy as they engage with Israeli and Arab leaders. In the latest, French President Emmanuel Macron has now arrived in Jordan on Tuesday after a visit to Israel and the West Bank, where he also met with the Israeli President Isaac Herzog. Not only this, Macron also met with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas.
I want to thank you.
He's now all scheduled to meet with Jordan's King Abdullah. Now, Macron, during his meet with the Palestinian leader, reiterated the need for a two-state solution. He also called for an immediate cessation of the aggression on Gaza. While in Israel, the French president proposed an international coalition fighting Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, which widens its scope to include the fight against Hamas in Gaza. While Macron gave no details on how the US-led coalition of dozens of countries, of which Israel is not a member, could be involved.
Thank you for coming.
However, as per his advisors, this coalition would not imply boots on the ground, but it could include intelligence sharing. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did not directly comment on Macron's proposal, but said that the fight was a battle between the axis of evil and the free world. Meanwhile, Netanyahu told his soldiers that a ground offensive is coming. He said that the offensive was still on track amid a growing sense of military delay. The Israeli chief of staff also said that the country's forces are ready for a ground operation in Gaza. Also speaking at an unidentified location in southern Israel, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant warned soldiers to be prepared for a ground offensive in Gaza.